Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have a special guest on my channel. Please introduce yourself to the readers and tell us about yourself.
My name is CJ Hudson, and I'm a multi-award-winning author of Destiny Lives on Fairhaven Street, and which actually just recently won its 11th award.
Congratulations. Now, what is your genre and what attracted you to that genre?
Well, I'm mostly romance, but this particular genre is sort of a mix between romance and memoir. So it's a realistic romance. I've always kind of been a hopeless romantic at heart, believe it or not. Guys, that look like me and are big as I am usually aren't romantics, but we are. I happen to be particularly. So it's interesting because, the way my life has been, it's people have told me over the years, like they've told many others, you should write a book. So I went ahead and I did. It took over 4 years, had to rewrite it 8 times. And I had 6 complete editing cycles, was rejected 138 times, and was all written on an iPhone.
Wow. So, what inspired you to start writing?
Well, it's actually been something that's been cooking in my head for about 25 years. It was something that, how a lot of people are, myself included, where, I'll wait until I'm a little better off financially, and then we'll go ahead and we'll write the book and stuff like that. And it did that for about 25 years until finally I was in that position and decided to write it. I've been writing my entire life. But this is my debut novel.
Mm-hmm. Now tell us about your first manuscript, your book, Destiny Lives on Fairhaven Street, and briefly describe it.
Okay, in a nutshell, it's the story of my life, obviously. It starts from the time I'm about 10 years old till the time I'm about 21. So I come from an abusive family. We've come 3 generations of abuse, over 100 years total. And so basically, in a nutshell, they were expecting me to be number 4. So we ended up moving to Fairhaven Street, where I met Danielle, who was the girl next door. And I was very, well, let's be honest, I was ugly back then. So the girls didn't want anything to do with me, but Danielle wanted to be friends. And we met, we fell in love. We were together from 10 until about 13. So we dated as much as, preteens can do. We were eventually forced apart because my mother went for sole custody from my father because they got divorced. And before I left, I gave her a heart pendant that snapped in half. I kept one half, kept the other, and I told her that I would love her forever. I was going to come back for her one day. And the book primarily focuses on the 8-year journey from that point until the point that I actually do return to her. I kept my half of the pendant on me, didn't take it off for 8 years, didn't date anyone, completely changed my looks, completely changed everything. And I ended the 100-year cycle of abuse, all for the sake of trying to win her back.
Okay. Now tell us about Danielle. You say the 8-year span and the pendant. Do you still have the pendant?
Well, you have to read the book to find that out. Well, it sounds hokey, but Danielle was sort of the light in the darkness for me back then, and she still is today. She was just one of the most loving, accepting people, most loyal people that I'd ever met in my life. She basically showed me that, I was worthy of being loved. She loved me when no one else would. So it was something that it really stuck with me. So, and she basically gave me a glimpse of this life that I had always wanted. It was a life where there was no abuse, there was no hatred, there was no violence, there's nothing at all. It was just love. She and her family were very loving towards each other. And it was something that I wanted. And even when I was that young, I wanted with her. So I was determined that I was going to come back and win this girl back and marry her. And I didn't want anyone else, wasn't even thinking about anyone else. And so it's funny because I actually mentioned this in the previous interview. My mother and I had a conversation about 7 months ago. It was right before she died. and we were talking about Danielle and how it's amazing how my mother told me when I was that age that it's just puppy love. It won't last. It'll go away. We forget about you in a week. Here we are 35 years later, still talking about her. She's still in our lives. So it's like, well, so much for that theory. But let's just say this much. Imagine having a person in your life that is so amazing that you would completely alter the course just so that way you could try to get them in it, because you know full well there is no chance you would ever want her to go through what you went through, or ever anything even remotely close.
Okay. Can you read an excerpt from your book, please?
Absolutely. Everything that lived and breathed came to a screeching halt, stopped still with all time at 11 a.m. on December 15, 1998. The scrub jays ceased their serenade, and the Floridian winds held their position, while a man and a woman who had once loved each other faced one another once again for the first time in almost 8 years, and it felt like the first time all over again. Destiny had been fulfilled. Despite all obstacles and tragedies that a lesser man would let defeat him, I had arrived at my destiny, the only place I'd ever wanted to be, reunited with my one true love.
Wow. And y'all have been married how many years now?
Well, I've been married to my wife for 13 years. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah. Well, my wife and I, we have a very happy marriage, I think. But what's beautiful about the book more than anything is that and this was what I wanted to convey to my children, because this was actually written to my sons, was that we have a certain idea of how life is going to turn out. We're going to go left, we're going to go right. This is going to happen, that's going to happen, and very rarely does it ever work out exactly the way we think it will. Mm-hmm. As I stated in the book, where it's what matters most is not that you get everything that you want, but that you realize that even when it doesn't work out the way you think it will, that it's still possible that the life you always wanted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when do you plan to release this?
Well, you can actually buy it now on Amazon. We're doing a pre-release, but the actual official release is New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. What did you learn while writing this book?
Well, I learned emotional endurance, even though it seemed like I already had that. It's funny. I didn't feel like I learned anything new from it. Mm-hmm. I feel like what I experienced was sort of reemphasizing what I had always known, is that you have to stick with it no matter what. Because like I said, when it had been rejected 138 times, and long story short, my first award came about a week after my nastiest review. So, yeah, in fact, it ended with the last line saying, "This book will not be popular." So, and then this is back in July. This is actually right after my mother died. And so the funny thing was that I got the award, and I'm like, okay, this is nice. This is great, mm-hmm. for more. And then by another month later, I'd gotten 2 more. And then, here we back in November. It just happened beginning of this month. I take that back, and we're now at 11. It's still going. Or it's even been officially released. So to me, it was just a reminder that no matter what, you never give up.
Amen. Amen. What was your writing process like?
Well, I only had about an hour every day because I have a family at home. So they kind of need my attention when I get home. So I'd go to work. I had an hour for lunch. I would go out into the car. That's one of the reasons why I use my phone, because it's a lot easier to carry a phone around, and mm-hmm. you get ideas. It's much easier to jot them down. And I would just work every work day on the book, every single day. And then basically what my process is, this book, it's not an easy read, because it does delve into abuse, chapter 2 specifically. And what it was for me was that, as I stated, I had to rewrite it 8 times, had to go through 6 full editing cycles. You're looking at 14 different times that I had to relive every single little thing, both good and bad. So it was something that I just had to get through. So that's okay, because what I found is that when I'm upset, that's when things flow and things come out very, very well. It feels like it just kind of comes naturally.
Okay. What do you think your role is in the literary industry?
My role in the literary industry is just like any other author, is to tell a story. That's the most important thing, because people read books and go to movies for the sake of getting away from everything. Also, in addition to that, I feel with this specific book that it's also to show people that, you know, anything is possible. And it's one of the reasons why I keep going up for more awards, because I don't want to just show this one person that, look, you were wrong. I want people to see that you can write a book on an iPhone every day for an hour and end up winning numerous awards and, you know, eventually becoming a bestseller. It's not a bestseller yet, but as I've stated before with my editor and with other interviews, I don't know when it's going to happen. I just know that's going to happen.
Okay. What are you currently working on right now?
I'm actually working on a romantic fictional novel titled The Gerbera Fields. And I'm getting the planning stages and getting ready to hopefully start writing it in the next couple months. Got to make sure everything's planned out nice and well. And I'm very meticulous with all my planning. So, but I'll have that. And then the book, Destiny Lives on Fairhaven Street, is actually the first of a series of books based from Fairhaven Street, where I lived, written to my sons about how they came to be and how my life went after the first book. So I'm definitely looking forward to writing them.
Okay. Now you say you broke the cycle of 100 years of abuse. How did you go through that process?
It took a lot of introspection. It was something that I had to be very, very honest with, not only the faults of my parents and my grandparents, but also my own. And what I learned was that when I accepted my role in everything that happened to me in my life, meaning that I had a role to play in every single thing, it gave me power. And that's, for me, that's what I crave the most. And then other people I've spoken to, been survivors of domestic abuse, we all struggle for power. We want to get some kind of control in our lives. And so for me, that's what it was. It all came down to
that. Okay. What do you want readers to take away from your book?
Well, as I stated before, no matter, life twists and life turns, and in fact, one of my favorite lines from the book is that life turns on a dime. And that despite the twists and the turns, like I stated before, that it's always possible to get the life you've always wanted, no matter your history, as long as you don't give up. And above all else, you always, always have a choice.
Yes. What has been your greatest accomplishment thus far in the literary industry?
Well, writing a book. That was probably it. Well, I mean, I say the awards, and that would be the obvious thing, but it's just I also go to a counselor, and one of the things that she mentioned the other day was that this must be so fulfilling for you, and I'm like, you have no idea, because it's like you sit on this idea that in your heart is gold. You're sitting on gold. It's just a matter of just having to connect all the dots. For 25 years, and this is this amazing idea, and finally see it come to fruition. Not only are you holding it in your hand, but you're seeing other people read it, and people are coming back saying how much they love it, and get people ask to order copies, everything else, and to me, that's the most fulfilling thing.
Okay. Do you say you write? What is this genre again?
Well, this one it's mostly romance, but it's a hybrid. It's a romantic memoir.
Okay, and your next book is romance also.
Correct. It's fiction.
Okay. Do you think you would go into another genre in the future, or would you just stay in romance?
I don't know yet. I think what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just focus on the here and now and make what I'm doing the absolute best I can. I'm open to going into genres. I've actually been toying around with an action, going into action, but that's so far down the road that it's not even a blip on my radar. the way I look at it, my editor reminded me of this too. It's like, you know, you're only as good as what you wrote last. So and that's the most important thing. It's like, as long as what you do now is good, then eventually we can see about expanding out more.
Mm-hmm. And tell us about your publishing journey.
Okay, well, a lot of rejection, some of it nasty, a lot of it very nice, very supportive. It's funny because one of the rejections I got was the sweetest rejection, and it was actually from a publisher here in Texas. And she said, well, you know, you should put this book up for an award. She's like, it could really help out with advertising. She goes, I think it would do pretty good. And so I actually wrote her back and thanked her. It's like, well, you were 11 times correct. But it, like I said, a lot of rejection. And it finally got to the point where it's like, I kind of felt like I did when I was in high school, where it's like you're trying so hard to be accepted by your peers and accepted with the cool kids and everything. And then you realize, well, wait a second, this is kind of silly. It's like, why would I be so worried about being accepted? I'm just going to do this myself. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I got in contact with Mindster Media. They read the book, they loved it, and they offered to go and help me out with publishing it. So they were able to get the cover and get it looking fantastic. Actually, it looks amazing. And to them, I'll always be grateful for that.
Okay. What has been the hardest part of writing this book for you?
The emotional strings that come with it, with each part. And what I mean by that is that, you know, every time you write it, you're experiencing this stuff over and over again, because I learned very, very early in my life that if I'm not in the moment, if I'm not feeling what the character is feeling in the moment, it's not very good. It's not good writing. So my wife would come in, she would sometimes see me in tears. She'd come into my office while I'm writing, and it's like, I'm not like sobbing, but she would see I've been crying. And it's like, well, it's because I'm writing a particular chapter that, you know, hit me really hard. But I noticed that when I relax, just let it flow, it comes out beautiful.
Okay. And do you have any events planned for 2023? Any book events, book signings?
Well, the launch is New Year's Eve. That's going to be a local thing. It's going to be here in Austin. Of course, buy it on Amazon and Walmart and whatnot. But I'm talking with Book People, which is of a small, we call it small, but it's actually the biggest independent bookseller in Texas. We're thinking about doing a signing once I get everything situated. Right now, my site just got a facelift, so I'm trying to really focus on SEO, get that going. I've been doing, I think this is my 14th interview I've done. I've done television and radio and podcasts, all that other stuff. So I'm going to be doing more interviews. You know, some of the awards I won have also got interviews that come with that, so I'll be doing a lot of awards. So I've got a pretty packed year.
Wow. Now, where can readers find you and your books?
Amazon, and then, of course, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com. There's, I think, at least 40 or 50 other sites you can go to, basically wherever books are sold.
Okay. And do you have an author website yet?
I do. It's https the Fairhaven series, it's all one word, .com.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add before we close?
Just I appreciate every single sale that's made, and I certainly appreciate every single review that's given, either good or bad. I do not care. Just please get the word out. This book, and I know a lot of authors say this, but it just happens to be true. This book is not like any memoir you ever read. This book is not like any romance you ever read. This is not a fairy tale. This is real life. Mm-hmm. So this is between people that they're actually alive. This all actually happened based on events that actually happened.
Okay. Can we see the book cover, please?
Absolutely.
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Love that pendant. But let me ask you a question about the pendant. Is that something that you bought or that you made?
My grandmother bought it for me. That's in the book as well. And what happened was that since I hadn't taken it off for 8 years, it completely tarnished. I half tarnished, and that's where the cover came from.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it too.
All right. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.